Welcome to the Ball at All Costs podcast. Another week, another episode, and another reason to be excited. We have the confident footballer, aka Diego Pagliuso, and of course we have one of our esteemed panelists, OC, in the building. Welcome, gentlemen, and Happy New Year again to you both.
Yes, Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, guys. Happy to be here.
Good. And we also have Deji on the way. So when he pops on, don't be surprised. I say this every week, and it's true. I'm excited this week because we have a friend of mine and a very, very influential person, actually, in this grassroots ecosystem, especially the London scene, but he's moved up north, and we'll hear about that more in Diego. And Diego, I'm delighted you've come on. It's taken a while, but you're here now, which is good. All good things come to those who wait. And we're going to talk about it all. And of course, I can see the shirts in the background, Gabrielle and Lucas. I'm a bit disappointed in the order of those two, one being on top and one being below, but I guess that is kind of where we are in life. But of course, I can see the other shirt behind you, which our viewers may not be able to see. There you go, the Selectico, the Brazilian national shirt. And of course, you're Brazilian, Diego.
That is the Spele, that's the king.
We're going to get into that. So first and foremost, to the Ben. And let's straight from the bat. Who's your goat?
Pele, no
Pele?
doubt. But,
without question, yeah?
Yeah, not even close.
Okay, and if I ask you who your modern GOAT would be, who would that be? Last 30 years.
I have to say Messi, for what he does, is brilliant. But at the same time, I love Ronaldo's work ethic and his mindset, and it's just, yeah. But Messi's probably a better footballer.
Okay, perfect. That's fine. I thought you might say R9, but that's okay. Messi and Ronaldo are both up there. And the king, I'm always here for the king. So guys, you knew I had to do it. When a Brazilian comes on, I get a bit excited. And Deginho, as he's also known as Deji, with his Brazilian surname, and you can actually talk more about that, Diego, when he comes on. England is a home of football, but I feel like Brazil is definitely a spiritual home of the modern game. And for those who don't know my story, my uncle brought me up on Brazilian football. So hence when the World Cup was there, I went in 2014 without question. So that's my love affair with Brazilian football. Hence, I'm always going to say the king is the GOAT, followed by probably R9, just because the love I have for his game. So the question's always going to come when the Brazilian's on, and we'll ask more with Diego in a second. But guys, listen, before we get into it, I've waffled on there. You know what I'm going to ask you to do. The subscribers are going up. So if you haven't subscribed already, please take a second just to hit that subscribe button. And that means we come straight to your feed. And if you hit the notification, you will also get notified of when a new episode drops. And please leave a comment and leave a like on this episode. We'll be truly grateful. And if you listen on the audio feed, please leave a review and a like. Thank you. So, as we do every week, we check in with each other. Deji's going to miss his check-in at the moment. So I'm going to start with you, OC. How has your week been?
Yeah, you know what? Week has been good. Last full week before the school and the work kicks back in. I've had quite a nice time off, quite a chunky time off, which has been positive. My boy, no matches, no real tournaments. Having said that, we did enter the Borders Cup, but we've just got back into some training amongst friends and people within the circle. Couple of dads taking their kids out and putting on a session. So quite positive, I would say. Just a little sentimental one, but as we reflected on 2025, you know what? I think I saw you at a tournament, didn't I? I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I saw you at a tournament, and I think I was an early fan of the pod. like maybe caught it from the second or third episode. And you know what, real blessing and privilege for me to sort of just be on the podcast with you guys, just trying to share knowledge. My intention when I came on wasn't to get on the panel, but some way found myself on there, and it's just cool. Like every week, just getting to know our guests, getting to know people like Diego, and just helping the audience. So yeah, I wrote that down as a little reflection on 2025. So yeah, big shout out to you guys for having me on.
Well, shout out to you, OC, for having the privilege, or the courage, I should say, not the privilege, it was our privilege, the courage to, just approach us. I think it was the next level tournament. I think it was One Touch. So shout out to Ash. You saw me there and said, hey. And we got talking and we had conversations afterwards and got you on and then got you back on as a regular guest, and you deserve to be on. So shout out to you, and it is a good reflection of 2025. Another such person who actually kind of, I would say, introduced himself to me. This was back when his son and my son played at Ryan. I believe your son's a year below my son in footballing in academic years. And what a fantastic player your son is. We'll get into that anyway. But I do remember your boy playing as they were building one of the Ryan team for the under-7 season. He played in a tournament and he played a year up for the new under-17 that was just forming. I think I could probably say he was the best player in the park for the team. And then I found out, I was excited because I thought, he's going to be in the team too. Then I found out he's an under-6 at the time, and I was like blown away. And then fast forward probably a few months. I don't really talk about my son that much on here, and listeners have actually asked me to give more information about him, his age, and his story, and I think that will come in a future episode. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was under 6. He went to Tottenham pre-academy, and I wasn't happy for him to go there just because I didn't think he was ready, and I thought he was a young 6 at the time. And I think a few weeks after him being there and being at a soccer school on a Saturday, I bumped into you, Diego, and you spoke about him and you spoke highly of him. And when I spoke to my son about you as the coach down there, he was very complimentary of yourself. And we'll get into that in a second, but that's how you and I got, I guess, to know one another. And you've had a journey since then, and you had a journey before then. So that's why you're on the pod. And do you mind talking about your career in Brazil, your career that led you to here, and what you did once you came here and up to the point where you are now? Because I think it's very interesting. I think there's a lot there.
Yeah, I remember some of those conversations we had at Ryan FC. Yeah. I remember telling you to be patient because your son is a young birthday and his time was gonna come, and whenever you're ready to disclose that in your podcast, he's doing well and things are working for him. So I'm very, very happy for you and for him. When I saw what I saw, that I messaged you saying, look, well done, because I was cheering for him from the moment I met you guys. My journey...
Sorry, Diego. I thought we were going to come into that a bit later, but just before you go into your journey, I found it very interesting. I'll tell you why I found it very interesting. It's because I don't know if it's something that they do in academies or not do in academies. So like I said, I didn't really care for him going in. And I was like, you're going for the experience and you won't remember it, even though it was like literally 6. We just spoke naturally, but you were very complimentary. What is it you saw, and why did you feel the need to share that? Just because it's not the norm, I don't think. I think it would just give an impression and understand of the person you are.
Yeah, I'm very open and honest. So anyone that's close to me would know I'll say whatever you ask me. I'm not going to be using the coach language and speaking riddles. I'll be very straight and honest. So anytime when I ask anything to me, I'll do that. And that's why I did when we saw each other at Ryan. Of course, it was quite a while ago, and there was so many kids I coached at the time. But what I remember was understanding that he was a late birthday. And even though he was a late birthday, he was competing at a very good level with the boys that were there. The way he moved, I knew that as moviness was going to come more and more as time went along. So I don't know, it's just that coach feeling you've got, lovely kid, always with a good attitude as well. So I think as a coach, when you see so many kids over the years, you start getting that bit of a feel. So I had it in my mind at some point you're going to get what happened to him recently, which is getting success. So that's more or less what it was.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing that, and thank you for the kind words. Sorry,
problem.
your journey.
Right, so to start with my journey, I've got to go back to Brazil. So I was born in Brazil. My parents had me when they were 16 to 17, so they were very young.
Yeah.
So I was raised by my grandparents, and that's important to say because it's going to come into place. My granddad worked in football, so he had different roles from scouting, supervisor in football clubs, so he worked in football full time.
Yeah.
And my uncle, his son, which lived at home at this point, he was a teenager, about 18, 19. He played for several football academies, São Paulo FC, Vasco da Gama FC. He played for lots of football academies. And when he was about 20 years old, he stopped playing football. At the time, the regulations were different to now. So if a club owned you and they said, you're not playing for us, but you're not going anywhere else, you couldn't just leave. So in the 90s, it was a little bit different. So it happened to him, plus other reasons why he didn't become a player. He was very highly rated in my town. Everybody talked about him. He's like, oh, he's the next big thing, but he didn't make it as a player. The reason that's important is because when I was 5 or 6, he started a soccer school. And I remember he used to take me on his bicycle, and I used to be sideways like this, and he'd carry me to this training session. I was one of 2 or 3 kids that he started with. Yeah. And he grew that business, and he had that business for over 30 years. Okay, so nice. I grew up in a family that football, there was no other choice. It was like I loved it, but I was there all the time. Yeah. So I grew up playing in a soccer school, and when I was about 13, 14, getting a bit older, I started helping out. So I used to help in the office, get payments. I used to go and help the coaches carry the equipment, clean the equipment, do this kind of things that a kid does, and play at the same time. And even coach, I couldn't coach because in Brazil, to be a coach, you need to be a PE teacher, you need to go to uni for 4 years. But I was always helping out and supporting reffing games and things like this. So my journey was basically shown to me, look, football is your life. There's not really a different way to go. But to be honest, I'm glad God gave me that choice and that opportunity because football is everything to me. When I was about 15, I joined an academy, a professional academy. It would be the equivalent of a Cat 2, a club that's sometimes in the first division, sometimes in the second. Yeah. I was there for about 8 months, a season. Didn't get much playing time, but I was there and I lived that, that environment. It was very different to what I knew at the soccer school. Kids came from all over Brazil to live at the digs, and it was different to what I knew before that. When I was about 17 to 18, I moved towns because I went to a professional football club. So I started playing men's football. Brazil is very big, so it's a professional club, but it's in a lower tier. Let's say National League Step 2, this kind of level. So I was, for a year I was there in a professional environment. I was getting some minutes, and my dad at the time had just moved to the UK. And my dad said, why don't you come to the UK or to Europe? Because we are half Italians, we can get Italian citizenship, you can play professional football here. It's much easier, you're Brazilian. So all that dream, and I thought, wow, that must be it. So I moved to the UK when I was 18. So when I was playing in this club in Brazil, once I left, I came to the UK because I thought I can play football. Life is not always as smooth as we want it to be. I was in the process of documentation, something that was supposed to take only a few months, took over 2 years. When I realized I'm 20 odd years old, almost 21, and then life just happens. You start working, you start doing other things, and then that dream of football a little bit went away. It was a bit too late for me then. AJ? Okay. So then in that period when I moved to the UK, I started playing futsal competitively. Because in Brazil as a kid, I played lots of futsal as well. And I started playing in the National League, which is an amateur league in the UK, but at the same time, it gives you a place at the Champions League. So it's quite competitive. You want to be the champions of England because you go Champions League. Yeah. So from the moment I moved to the UK, I started playing there just to keep fit. And that was, I used to work full time, but then that was my part-time thing. And I loved doing that. And then from there, the team I played for, they had a project in Tower Hamlets. where they did a once a week coaching for the local community. So I was one of the players that I got paid to play, but one of the deals was I also come to coach the kids. So I start doing my badges, and I thought, you know what, I love this because this is all I know. I don't want to be working doing something else. I was working in restaurant. I've done everything you can imagine in those 2 years. So I thought, you know what, I really like this because that's what I know, that's what I grew up doing, and that's what I want to do. If I'm not a football player, I want to coach because that's my life. So I started getting my badges, and it went from there. So after a while coaching there, we had, I don't know if you guys know Ole Futsal.
I know Ole, yeah. Okay,
so Alfie started playing for our team, and very quickly we become friends. This is probably 2013, 14. Very quickly become friends, and one day we're chatting and we said to each other, I remember it was a Turkish place in Walthamstow. We were on a table and we said, why don't we open a futsal academy? There's not many people doing this. There was only one or two that we knew in the UK. And why not? So I had the futsal knowledge from playing longer, being Brazilian, and he had the local connections because he had a son which was already playing football grassroots, and he had, he played himself academy. Therefore we said, why not? We started Ole Futsal, so we started together. And we ran Ole Futsal for a year. Right. And after about 6 months, because Ole Futsal went very quickly, people were like, oh, this is cool, this is new, this is exciting. Then we opened the second branch, which was in Upminster. Home church at the time, wasn't Upminster, home church. And I used to go to one and come back to the other. After a year, we had a bit of a different views and we decided to part ways. But when we parted ways, I stayed with the home church, and then it became Finta, which is what you guys probably have seen. I used to coach the futsal club, and then I had that full-time for 10 years. So when I started coaching Finta, we started getting some success. We had some local kids, and then this is where my academy journey starts, because I had a lot of kids from the West Ham Academy. They were probably on the 9s and the 10s at the time, and they went to a futsal tournament, the Premier League festivals that they do. Yeah. So they went to play that, and they won it. They won the nationals, and they were scoring set pieces. They were scoring, they were moving. They were doing things that West Ham never taught them. Yes. And then the coaches were like, where did these kids learn to do this? And then when they asked the kids, they were like, oh, we do futsal with this Brazilian guy in home church. And then this is where West Ham invited me to have a chat and said, look, we like what you're doing with the kids. Can you come and help us? Can you do that with the pre-academy? Can you do ball mastery? Because there's a big conception that futsal is only footwork and skills. So they thought, why not get this into the pre-academy? And they become very skillful because Brazilians are skillful because of futsal. So that's where my journey started with West Ham. I talk a lot, don't I?
No, it's brilliant. It's perfect. So I'm going to stop you there and we can continue as where it went from there. But I mean, welcome, Deji, by the way. The Finta, the Ole. So my son went to Ole Futsal. It was around the corner from us, so we know that well. And Alfie, shout out to Alfie, shout out to Ole Futsal. They're part of the ecosystem. They do good work as well. So, but I love the fact that many a good business idea, many a good conversation happens over the dinner table. Two friends with things in common, sitting down, chopping it up, and then an idea is born. And that's kind of what got you into the UK ecosystem of grassroots football and academy football. And I think that's amazing. So many questions there. What did you think about the UK grassroots ecosystem at the time? And what was there in terms of futsal before you guys started Ole and then Finta?
Okay. I don't know what I thought because I wasn't really part of the ecosystem yet. Because all I was doing is coming to a futsal court and teaching futsal, which I loved. I was just sharing what I was doing weekly playing with those kids. And very quickly they thought, oh, this is really cool. And I started doing well and it grew. We went from 0 to 100 kids in 3 months. It was very quick. So, but I didn't know how how it worked. To be honest, I didn't know how the age groups worked. What school years are from September to, I didn't know because I'm from Brazil, it's calendar years, everything was very complicated to me. Alfie did that part. I coached. I just wanted to coach and, share my love of futsal with them. At the time in London that I remember, it was only Escola Futsal, top guys as well, they in Northwest London. Brazilian guys, Giba, lovely guy, Rodrigo. Jiba was my fitness coach when I played, so I knew him from that. And there was CM Futsal in Leighton with Carlos. I don't know if you guys know Carlos.
Yes,
They have a football club as well, CM. They were the only ones doing it at the time. So when we started Ole, it was something new, exciting. And yeah, so there was only us at the time.
Okay, massive. And we're going to fast forward a little bit to futsal now to futsal then. Mm-hmm. How massive has it grown? And also, how much has it been introduced into academy, I guess, football? Because from what I can see, there's regular indoor football and futsal tournaments played by a lot of the, I can only speak on the London academies, London academy teams.
Right. So futsal has grown. When I first started, I had to explain to people, it's five-a-side, it's indoors, the ball is heavier, it doesn't bounce. I had to explain everything. Now most people are educated, they know what futsal is. I do think there is now a lot of people that are from football. I'm not criticizing, but they're from football and then they go indoors and they call it futsal, which is not, because futsal is a sport on its own. So there is a kind of a specialist type of coaching and knowledge and rules and things like this to get the best out of futsal. So it's got popular, but I still think it lacks more providers that are futsal.
Genuine. Yeah.
Yeah, genuine futsal. I have parents complain to me all the time. There's no futsal around my way that is actually futsal. It's just a football club is doing futsal on the side. So that's happening. With the academies doing them, I think they're just doing to tick a box at the moment. I don't think any of the academies are actually doing futsal because they see the benefit of futsal. I think the Premier League pushed it. I don't know if the FA pushed it, but they've got the festivals and the things, but it's not really being taken as it can be helpful. Like in Brazil, the kids will play futsal from under 6s to under 11s competitively, and then they will join the 11s at football academy. So some clubs will do both, but most clubs will be futsal only. So recruitment, they recruit kids of futsal, competing, all of that is happening between 6 and 11, and futsal is a big part of that. So there's no coincidence that every year Brazil has, even in our worst phase right now, we still have the Rodrigos, the Vini Juniors, and these guys. So I think futsal is a tool that's not being used properly in this country. They are pushing it, but I think clubs are doing it just because they have to, not because they actually see the benefit of it.
I understand. So on that note then, we had, I don't know if you know Gabriel Telles. He's at Orient. We had Gabriel Telles on, and he spoke on, I guess, I can't remember the name of it now. I'm ashamed of myself, but the beach football in Brazil. Mm-hmm. He spoke on that and the benefits of having that. And I think he touched on, if we look at Richarlison, for example, in the Premier League, not the greatest Brazilian striker the world has ever seen in terms of technical ability with the ball at his feet, i.e. we talk about another R9 in the Phenom, levels apart. However, Richarlison has scored some spectacular goals and volleys, scissor kicks, the goal he scored in the World Cup. And Gabriel put that down to beach football, because in beach football, you don't tend to dribble much. A lot of the ball is played in the air, right? Mm-hmm. Knee touches, thigh touches, chest touch, volleys. What benefit do you think having a genuine bona fide futsal league for academy kids and non-academy kids would have on English football?
Okay. Do you have 2 hours to talk about this?
Condense it to 2 minutes for me, please, Diego.
Right. So, I think everything, decision-making, tactics, because you can do everything in that five-a-side. The game is so fast, and you've got to be so smart tactically and technically to deal with problems that, I don't know, futsal is football on steroids. You got more of the ball, everything it's just more, And I was having this discussion with my son this week about football, and I think, I don't know if you guys agree what you see in football right now, but everybody's doing the same similar sort of sessions, technical skills and everything. So everyone is becoming generalists, like they're okay or good at everything, but a lot of players I see, even in academies, you can't put your finger and say, what is this guy? What is he good at? Does he stop goals? Does he score goals? Does he create goals?
Yeah.
Because as you said, Richarlison, maybe when he was 7, he wasn't doing step overs and Cruyff turns and stuff, but he can play the game. He can play football. He's annoying to play against. He's aggressive.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I think futsal can help you with that, because in futsal, if you play in a diamond, you've got your target player that is going to be good at holding back.
Yeah.
How many strikers are we developing right now? Do you know what I mean? Or you have your wingers that are skillful, inverted wingers that want to cut in and shoot, and you want to beat you 1v1. You've got the guy at the back who is responsible for building up, but also breaking play. So futsal, if it's used properly, can develop so many areas of a footballer.
And I agree. Talk to me about the creativity, because it's football on steroids, our tight spaces, you're 1v1 pretty much 5-a-side. Do we get Ronaldinho if there's no futsal?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if you can manufacture a Ronaldinho by the way we're doing things where everybody's can do everything with the ball, because Ronaldinho was more of a feeling guy when he was just feeling the game, and I think futsal was a massive reason for that, because he was able to express what he had in his mind in a futsal court. The ball doesn't bounce as much, doesn't go out a lot, so it stays in play. I don't know if you've seen videos of Ronaldinho play futsal when he was little.
All day, every day. Ronaldinho is probably number 1 on my playlist right now.
So I don't know if there will be Ronaldinho without futsal, you know. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's what I see him play now, but on those small pitches and the creativity he has now, and he was a marvel to watch. He made the game enjoyable, right? We're not seeing so much of that now. We're not seeing so many players that you just sit back and just think, how on earth did he do that? Not only how on earth did he do that, what made him think to try that? Like, where did that come from? Like, who knew someone could control the ball on their back whilst running at 90%? Who knew someone could do a through ball with their back? Like, just because that was the feeling he had at the time, and that's where the ball was, and he saw the runner. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And I feel like futsal encourages that kind of creativity, because it's so fast paced, there's so little space that you have to think very fast, and you literally have to think on your feet. So that's why I think there's a big place for futsal in creating those players that are not robotic and are geniuses. But let's move it on, and then I'll open the floor to OC. I see he's taking himself off mute. Did you have a question there, Rose?
No, you go.
Okay. I was just going to move it on before we ask more questions about where you went from West Ham.
Oh, that's crazy. I went to Scotland. So I already had Finta. I was running it full time, and I had sessions a few nights a week, and I had coaches working with me. And one day I was on Rightmove, London prices were crazy, and I thought, I need to find somewhere cheaper that is close. And I started looking an hour away. I don't mind traveling an hour for work. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, no, that's too expensive. And then for some reason, I had just gone on holiday to Scotland, and I saw prices in Scotland. I was like, let me see how much it costs to fly from Scotland to London on a weekly basis. Okay. And I went on the website, and it was like so cheap. And I thought, you know what? I could live in Scotland and work in London. Yeah. So I'm mad. I know I'm crazy, but I just took my wife up. We went for a weekend, for a week, I think, and then we started looking at houses. And then I bought a house in Scotland. I moved to Scotland, but I was still working in London. So I used to come down on Thursdays, and I stayed here Thursday, Friday, and then work those days. Saturday night, I'll go back home and then spend the rest of the week there. Okay, so Enzo was this is 2017, 18. So I was still at West Ham, and Enzo was about 2-3 years old. Mm-hmm. And on a Saturday morning, I continued coaching at West Ham. It came to a point, it was too tiring for me because of that travel. And I remember telling West Ham, I told Nathan, which was here on the podcast, a really good friend I made in football. And I said, Nath, I cannot do the morning anymore, because if I sleep a bit late, then I can have a good session in the afternoon, because I've got 4 or 5 sessions back to back, and then I can get back to Scotland. So I did that for a year. It didn't last because I was super tired, and I decided to come back to London. When I came back, I was out of academies. I wanted to focus on the futsal. I wasn't really keen on that, to be honest. But then an invite came from Spurs a couple of years later to go work at the pre-academy. And I thought, you know what? Like, that's a jump. You know, Spurs is a big club. I would love to try this because my career, you know, I've only had one experience so far. This is different, and I remember I went for a visit and I loved it. The training ground is the Disneyland for coaches, and I thought, wow, this is so cool.
I love
And
that.
I really want to work there. And then everyone welcomed me really well. It took a time for the process to happen because I think it was like 2 months DBSs and things like this. But I was visiting sometimes and watching and seeing, and I thought I just want to do this. And then I started working for Tottenham in the pre-academy, and then very quickly, because Tottenham kind of has a policy that they promote from within the club, a space for the under-9 academy group open up, and within 2 or 3 months that I was in the pre-academy, they invited me to do the under-9s, and I thought that is such a good opportunity. You know, it's not very easy to get an academy job in a Big Six club in this country.
Yeah.
So it's different to doing pre-academy to actually doing the academy. And I thought, you know what, this is fantastic. I want to try that, and that's when I went to Spurs. So I was doing all the development center groups, age groups, the pre-academy, and I started doing the under 9s age group, which they're currently under 12s.
Brilliant.
Where we met there that's where I coached your lad, isn't it?
Yeah, in the pre-academy. Perfect. Before I hand over to OC, I think that's fantastic, and there's more to go. Can you just validate something for us, please, Diego? One of our panelists, Deji, aka
How do I know? I knew you were going to go there, you know. I knew you were going to go there.
aka the Bundler, like me, has a Brazilian nickname. He says Virginio. And bear in mind, I don't know if you've caught any of the episodes. One time he committed blasphemy. He rolled off Virginio in the same breath as Ronaldinho, like he'd played in the 2002 World Cup. So I just want you to validate the spelling of Virginio. And is it something that would come from Brazil? And if so, what region would Honourable Virginio come from? Do you want to tell us the spelling again?
Okay, so NHO, Nho, it means little.
Little.
So when Ronaldinho came through, I remember he played against Venezuela. He was only like 18 or 19. He scored an amazing goal. We already had Ronaldo. So his name was Ronaldo. And then people thought, well, there's Ronaldo, which at the time in Brazil we called Ronaldinho. Because when Romario was playing, Ronaldinho was the younger little guy, so he was Ronaldinho at the time. But when Ronaldinho came through, we said, no, you are Ronaldo now, and you are Ronaldinho. So anyone that's little, normally you see small players, they will normally put a NHO at the end. So Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. So that means little, basically. And there is no region, it can be anywhere from Brazil.
That's the Gamma is Ronaldinho's region, isn't it? So your little Deji, which would be your son, really, unless your dad played.
Yeah, my dad played, but yeah, I think it's me also, because in Brazil there is a Yoruba tribe in Brazil, so there is a Yoruba link between.
Where is this? Where is this? Sorry,
Nigeria. Well, Diego would know, and so Deji is Yoruba for Ronaldo.
No. I'll ask my mate ChatGTP now. And listen, unless you come from Salvador, there is no chance. Sorry, we're going to leave that there because it's getting wilder and wilder. Deji is Yoruba for Ronaldo. Okay. Sorry, I'm handing over to you. Okay.
No, listen, jokes. I'm loving like the backstories. Like I had no idea about Ole. I had no idea that like you formed it as well. So yeah, I think the impact that you've had across, well, it sounds like across the world actually. You're traveling from Scotland, Brazil, all over. I think it's really, really powerful. And just as you're speaking about futsal, I'm just thinking about it because obviously you're familiar with my nephew. You've worked with my nephew. And I don't think you work with my son too regularly, but we came through Finta futsal. And actually we're booked on for this Tuesday. We're in the next block. So he had a hiatus and now he's back into Finta. And his the way that the style that he plays with, and my nephew, a lot of that is built off of futsal. It's built off finta, just the approach, the coaching, and obviously I suppose the philosophy that you gave to your coaches as well. So we're working with Ozzy Osas, and I think what you've instilled within him, which is now like moves on to further afield. I think that's a real good legacy that you've set there. So many different ways that we can go on this pod, and I suppose I just wanted to. You made a point regarding the sessions now, the sessions that we're seeing from the different specialists or practitioners. A lot of players seem the same, and what I wanted to understand from yourself is just from your experience working in the academy space, West Ham and Tottenham. What would your thoughts or your message be to parents? Because for me, I feel like it can become very samey, and a lot of players look the same, and they don't have a personality of themselves. Listen, I don't want to put too much pressure onto the parents because there's a big schedule that they need to deal with. But do you feel like parents need to do something away from the academies to have their own individual footprint as a player?
100%. And I mean, no disrespect to any academy coaches, because I was one myself. And when the academy coach gets the kids, they're trying their best to develop their kids, but they get the product almost ready. Because before that, there's years of education from the kids, from the parent going to many different places or the local ones or whatever it is. So the work does happen outside the academies a lot. And if you're not doing extra, you will probably struggle unless you are a special player that just gets it. So I see parents as project managers. You're managing a project, so you've got to make sure they eat right, sleep right, they train the right things, and it depends on the type of player your child is as well. So when I say the sessions are very much similar, everybody's doing 1v1s. Why is the obsession with 1v1s? Some players might not be 1v1 players, and that's okay. So my suggestion to parents is, you are a project manager, understand what kind of player your child is, and then double down on that. Help them achieve the best they can. Of course, you want to develop areas that they need to improve on, but become really good at the thing that your child is good at. And you can do that by supporting and finding the right sessions. Throughout my son's journey, I've always had moments where I go to certain places and then he needs to develop a certain area of the game. And then I say, look, this guy can do that better than me. So I'm taking him to him, because at that moment in time, that's the best kind of session he needs to have. So players do need sessions outside of the academy. I think in the academy, you get a group of 20 kids coming in and you're trying your best as a coach to develop everybody. But it can be a bit generic at times. I think when you're developing your own son and you're taking him to the sessions you want him to go to, example, futsal. First question I asked you today about your son before we went in was like, is he doing futsal? And you said, oh, coincidentally, he's just joining again. So what does your child need? And then provide that outside of the academies, because that's very, very important. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. You did. I think before we started, we're investing in our children. We're trying to build a solid foundation. And yeah, do you know what? It is a project and it's intricate. And I feel like at times there is such a desire to get their kids into this coach or this academy and just leave it there with them. And then start moaning and complaining and sort of put a lot of pressure on your child because you haven't taken time to really step back and understand the needs and the requirements of exactly their journey, essentially. So yeah, I think that information was really good. Other question I'll ask is, so having said that, based on the system within the UK, I suppose perhaps you can touch on the system within Brazil as well and see how they differ, but would you suggest that there is an urgency for parents and children to get into the system if they want to become professional footballers?
Right. So one myth I'm going to debunk is Brazilians don't do ball mastery sessions. That doesn't exist. Okay. So you see people say, oh, you're doing Brazilian ball mastery. Brazil doesn't do ball mastery sessions. Brazil plays futsal. They play the game. And when they play futsal to win the game, and then the skill will be a resource. Yes, it's a hot country, so kids are probably playing on the streets and they're developing those things anyway. So we can't replicate everything, but it's just to break that myth that Brazil is spending hundreds of hours doing. They're not learning what a V-turn is, or maybe now with online training and people watching other countries and what people put, maybe they're doing more, but it's not common. I visited Santos Academy many times. I visited Corinthians Academy, big clubs in Brazil, and they're not doing that kind of thing. So they're playing the game. So the system is completely different. There are things that I really like about Brazil. There are things I really like about England. And I think finding a mix, it's very important. Also respecting culture. Example, Brazil is very competitive from under 6 and under 7. So you might have an Arsenal versus Tottenham game under 7s. And the little futsal arena is full, and there's vuvuzelas, fireworks outside, and when they score, they go mad. Sometimes can get heated between parents, and parents wear the actual shirts of the clubs, and they're chanting things like if they're hooligans on it. Like it can get quite heated in Brazil. So I think it can be too much for very young kids, because one thing that happens as well, I've met boys at Santos, because I trained there a few times, that don't even get picked to the game. Or they go to the game and they get 2 minutes. Where here, academies are giving equal game time and you're allowed to stay on the ball. If you make a mistake, it's not, So a lot of Brazilian academies at the moment, they are playing to win games. Therefore, they can limit creativity a little bit. So I think there are positives in Brazil. The kids are resilient because they're competing. They will probably get stuck in. They're getting tactically ready. But then sometimes it goes too much the other way, where limiting game time, a bit aggressive. The environment can be a bit aggressive. So, there are a lot of things that we're doing well here, but there are things we could take from there as well. So there's no perfect scenario.
Okay. So there were two quite distinct questions, but the other question is just in terms of the system now. Would you suggest that parents and players need to get in the system as soon as possible?
Okay. Sorry, I forgot that one. I think the stats will tell you that you do. Because the earlier you get in it's easier to get in the academy under 9s than it is later on. But I have my doubts, and I dwell with this question all the time. Me and Nathan from Proverbs, we always argue about this. And he doesn't think you need to be in an academy. And I say, but the opportunities that open. So my son signed for Man United, and I hope he stays there for a long time. But if at some point United says they don't think he's at the level, very likely he will fall into another good club just because he played for United. So I think the earlier you go, in the highest the club you go early, later on, it will help you to stay in the system as long as possible. Now, you're in a system as long as possible, you're getting coaching, good fixtures, you're being seen, your motivation levels as well are high because you're playing for a decent club, a good level. When distractions start coming about, you are engaged in something, which is football, and you are, even though they're still kids, they're kind of you're 15, 16, you're kind of a player, right? So you do this a lot of hours every week. So I do think it makes a difference in this country because everything is so organized if you are earlier in the system. But having said that, there's the other side, that kids that sign academies later, 13, 14, 15, 16, if they do sign, they tend to go further because, I don't know, maybe they just have the hunger. They didn't lose it at 9, 10, 11 of getting everything, all the tracksuits and everything else for them. So, yeah, I think there's both. I do think it helps. The stats will show you that it helps, but at the same time, you can make it if you're on the outside, and it might give you other things that being in an academy want, which is the hunger, the desire, the really wanting to be there.
Thanks, Diego. Yeah, that context is really good. I'll hand over to Deji. Thanks.
Diego. Thank you, OC. Diego. First and foremost, it's so good to be chatting with you. We crossed paths under a few years back, and I want to thank you because I actually think you're a legend, you and Nathan, in this space, and I think you guys have helped to create an environment where I believe Essex is probably now the more dominant force in football, and I'm happy to be challenged on that by anybody. Look, Diego, you've been around the country. From what you've seen, where is the most talent? Where is the best football being played at the moment?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what? The thing you said about Essex, I remember talking to parents a few years ago in a tournament. We went to Madrid, and I said exactly the same thing. I think, I don't know what it is about Essex, but people are very competitive there, and they need to do well. I don't know if it's to show other people. I don't know why, but there is that kind of competitiveness there. So I agree that Essex is up there with even school tournament, football tournaments. You see Essex always doing well and getting close to winning things. So I can't guarantee that that is it, but I do agree that Essex is quite strong. I think there's a myth that in London the level is a lot higher than the north. Now that I've seen both, what I think it is, there's more population, so there's more quantity of players. But if you get the best 10 players of every academy in the north, they will be probably very similar to the 10 players in the academies in the south, apart from the gems that show up because there's more people in London, right? So what I do think is London region is more aggressive, which can also translate to be more toxic in the environment of parents. I felt in the north is a little bit cool and more chilled, and people they've got more time, I think. So in London, sometimes I went to London last week. There was no issues, but I went to London last week for a tournament, and you can see the edginess. Like, do you know what I mean? So in terms of level, London will have more in quantity, but I don't think there's that much a difference between. I'm talking about Manchester, Liverpool, and London. People might say I'm wrong because a lot of people think that London has a lot better players. I don't know. I've seen some pretty good players up here as well.
Fair. So that this idea that we could just move north and guarantee ourselves our kids in Liverpool or Everton or Man United, would you say that's probably a myth? It's not as easy. Just because you have this London tag doesn't necessarily equate to your boy or daughter going into Man City and getting into their squad.
Yeah, it doesn't guarantee anything. So I'll give you the story of my son and how I got to this point right now. Enzo, when he was 5, he got scouted by Arsenal. So early days, one of his first matches, he got scouted by Arsenal Development Centre. And then very shortly after, he went into Spurs, West Ham, Watford. So he was in many of the pre-academies in London. And then, if you're in the system, the pre-academy players, they are pre-academy players. They are in a level maybe a little bit more advanced than kids who are not there. So maybe they learned quicker, maybe had more coaching. So he was already in that kind of level. When I moved, I moved to the north, around Manchester, because I wanted to be close to football clubs that are big enough for 2 reasons. One, because I knew he was going to get picked up at some point. But if I stayed in London, he would have signed somewhere as well, because I left right at the time that the under-8 were signing. Maybe it wasn't right then, but if I just stick to what he was doing, I think he was going to get signed. Maybe this is my biased parent opinion.
He was going to be signed. I'm co-signing that.
Yeah, 100%. He's class act.
So yeah, and then when I moved to the north, we started doing group sessions and things like this. And then you know what? When things are not supposed to happen, they don't happen. Because a friend of mine from London contacted somebody from United and said, "Got this boy Enzo, you got to watch him." And we came up. We moved up, and then he went on like a session with them just before they signed their 8s. He played a match for them, and he was okay. He wasn't bad, but he was okay. New environment, doesn't know anyone. His confidence was very shaken at the time, and this is where I'm going to link to the confident footballer. It was a lot of my fault, and I admit that. So, long story short, it didn't work. But then he went to a session on a week with Football Kings, and the guys worked for City, and then he got a match for City on a Sunday, and then he went to play for City. He stood still in the middle of the pitch, just froze, didn't do anything. So both opportunities, the 2 big clubs in Manchester, it was a no. Okay, so straight away, I thought, that's. I thought he was going to get more of a chance. I had that myth from London that if you're from London, you're naturally just going to get a spot. And we settled, we moved, and I remember Enzo's confidence was shaking because of all the things that happened in the pre-academies in London. I think a bit of the rejection. He's small. Small players are not the favourites, and I think he took a lot of knocks as well. So I think when we moved to the north, his confidence was shaken, and I started trying to help him. I was just trying to study how can I help this kid, bring everything he's got out of him, and I started creating a document on Canva, which right now has 200 odd pages. So everything I learned from me and for him, I would put it there. So that it's a massive document right now. And as I started creating that document, I started applying the stuff for him to mindset techniques. I started studying sports psychology. So just to give you context, during the pandemic, I studied sports psychology just because I wanted to help my players. So I don't have a degree in psychology. I'm not a therapist. It's not what I do. But I had a little bit of knowledge. And then I started diving deeper into that, understanding why was he so nervous? Why was he lacking so much confidence? And then I understood that I was putting pressure on him, even though I didn't want to. And then I changed things. And from that, I created a system for him. Now, Enzo wasn't going to play grassroots in the North because I thought Enzo's going to join an academy. I don't really want to go down the grassroots route again. I'm just going to bring him to these sessions, create the diet for him, and then he would at some point be able to, join an academy. But then one day he comes from school and his motivation was really low. He didn't really want to play football. He was playing because I was taking him. So he comes from school and I say to him, Enzo, you've been invited by Everton to go, train. And he started crying. And that day I thought, right, there's something wrong here. There's something really wrong here. And I realized that it was me wanting for him to do something, and it wasn't him wanting to play as much. And my expectations of him, you were good, you need to sign, you are at this level. But he was just like a 7-year-old boy, 8-year-old boy thinking, Dad, I just play football because I like to, So he wasn't going to play grassroots. This day of the Everton thing, he cried and he didn't want to go. And I said, okay, let's do something. When we get home, go have a shower. And because we had to go that day, so I found out on a Monday that he was going to go, and I picked him up from school and I told him that we're going to go that day. When we get home, you have a shower, and then I'm going to go to the shop. When I come back, you tell me. So I went to the shop, came back. He was with his towel on the bed, crying. His eyes was all red, and said, Dad, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And then I thought, right, there's something here that I need to work on. So I told him, let's do a deal. You go, and I promise you that no matter how it goes, even if you were the worst player there, which is not going to happen, I will just watch you and clap for you, and that's all that's going to happen. Is that okay? And then he said, okay. And then he went. Came back home. He was happy. Next week, he wanted to go, didn't complain. Week after. So then at that point, I started applying the system that I was creating with him. And then he came from school one day and he said, Dad, there's this boy at school that plays for a grassroots team. Can I play for them? And I was like, yeah, no, it's okay. Next day he comes again, Dad, there's this boy, I've made a friend at school. Can I play for this grassroots team? And I was like, oh, okay, and so we take you. So I didn't want him to go, but then I took him, and I've never seen him so happy in a long time. Like, he was just happy playing football, and the level was lower. They were not in a very strong league. They were not even in the first division in Wigan. Okay, so Manchester would be stronger. We in Wigan, so he wasn't very strong. So he started playing that grassroots league, and he just wanted to play. He just enjoyed, and he played a summer tournament with them. And then from there, everything changed, because alongside the mindset work that I was doing with him, and the happiness he was getting from just playing with new mates and making new friends, and making me understand how important the social side of the game is as well. Because we sometimes forget, we take them to all these group sessions, they sometimes don't even know the kids, and we're expecting them to perform. And it doesn't work like that. Do you know what I mean? If even we are adults, we have a 2-minute chat before, just to break the ice, because we are humans. We need to, do you know what I mean? Imagine a kid just getting into a session to another session to another session and having to perform. So, yeah, and then that process, he was playing for this grassroots team one day, and then he got scouted. His coach saw him do many different things for the weeks, and his coach said, I'm going to get somebody to come watch him. And then he got a different scout from United, nothing to do with my friend at the beginning that's connected with him. And the scouts came to watch him and invited him to a development center. He went to the development center, which is a once-a-week training, and he was there for about 2 or 3 months, and then they moved him up to an advanced center, which trains twice a week, and is a very small group of 12 kids between 9s, 10s, and 11s all together, which is they call the advanced group, because those kids are very likely going to go on trial. Long story short, went on trial and he's just signed in September. But it took us, we moved, last month it was 2 years. 2 years since we moved. We didn't come for the club. We moved close to a city that has football clubs, but it was a process that he had to go through, and it's not just, I come from London, I'm going to go in. It doesn't work like that. There's good players here as well. There's good players in all the clubs. Do you know what I mean?
Respect, Diego. And, there's something there about the kind of listening. And I know my learned friends, Andrew and OC, will probably, drill down more about the listening. And I know you mentioned you were going to talk about the confident footballer, which I'm really intrigued to hear. And I find it very intriguing because when I think of you and I think of Nathan, my son's obviously under Nathan. And, they did he was part of Folktale, with the team that Nathan first formed that ended up winning the Festival Cup. It's something that I'm going to be telling people for the rest of my life. I know that he will. That is a poor joke, by the way. But yeah, but I think it was a big deal. And I know Nathan talks about you often, how you guys go back and forth. My question, I am the bundler. So unfortunately for you, I will bundle this. I couldn't help myself. There's two things. My son, who I hope you remember, Angelo, is equally small, technical. And then there's something about what I love about you and Nath is that you guys have an idea of football and you try to bring your idea of football to the people who have the pleasure of working with you. From what so the first thing is, I want to know your thoughts about the physicality and the technical aspect. Being a Brazilian, I think I already know the answer to this. However, you've also been an academy coach. So please explain your reasoning and as to why, whether that be positive or negative when it comes to physical and technical. And then also about whether you trust what you see in the academy system from what you've seen so far. You've been in there. Mm-hmm. I know you talked about this, it's quite challenging. I'd like to know if you were to do something different, what would it be? Sorry, that's why it's a bundler.
No, that's a really good question.
Deji, there's about 7 questions in one there.
I couldn't help myself, right? Because I know we're gonna go to the confident footballer, so that's why I had to get it in.
No, it's a good look. I've been fighting this battle, so people don't think I'm doing it because Enzo is small. Before Enzo was born,
okay.
So I remember fighting the battle of small, clever players because they're gonna grow and they can play the game. So for a long, long, long time. Okay, so I was blessed with a child that is small. I'm 5'11", so I'm not really small. But Enzo is tiny for his age in football, so it just happened that he is. But I've been fighting this battle for a long, long time. I think this is got to come first all the time. But I'm also humble enough to see when I learn new things. So one of the clubs I was at, and I'm not going to say which one of them, in one of the age groups, I absolutely love this kid. There was this kid on the pre-academy that I really, really, really liked. We didn't sign him. And later on, he signed for another academy. And a year later, I saw one of the people that make the decisions. I was like, why didn't we sign so-and-so? And he said, Diego, you know what? We like him as well, but he wasn't ready for that level of Cat 1 football because he's so ruthless and physical and it's 4 times a week and he wouldn't have helped him develop. And you know what? At the time I didn't see, but with Enzo, when I first brought him to Manchester, he wasn't ready mentally, and the size can play a part in that. It can play a part because when you don't get a lot of success because somebody's faster, bigger, stronger, it can really affect your confidence. So I understand the term being ready because we're talking about 9s, 10s, 11s. So I understand the term being ready. Having said that, I think we've got to start looking for decision makers more, and we've got to create a platform that can help them because the academies as well, most clubs is 1v1, 1v1, 1v1. So of course, you're going to benefit the faster, bigger kid because you're expecting the little guy to beat him with skill, right? So I think that's where the flow is. There's a lot of good stuff happening here. There's not all bad. Look, there's a lot of investment happening, educated coaches, some top coaches in academies. But I do think there's got to be more of a view on those guys who are not as effective in the 1v1 because maybe they're effective at other things. It's changing. I can see. So United signed Enzo recently. Chelsea recently signed a boy called Afonso, quite tiny as well. So there are people in the game starting to look at those guys and think, are we missing out something here? Because England is producing a lot of footballers, but then you go to Spain, you go PSG, Vitinha, João Neves. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So why are we not developing Vitinhas? Why are we not letting those?
Yeah, because we're not getting through yet. Yeah.
Yeah, we have those guys here. I always talk about a boy I used to coach. He's still playing National League football, Fletcher Hubbard. He's very tiny. One of the most genius kids I've ever met in my life, both footed. At 9 and 10, he would do things you think like, oh my goodness me. But the system is so much about covering ground that these kids get lost in the system, because if I can get a child that can cover ground more as they grow, then it's easier. It's easier to sell this child later when he's 18 or 19. So I do think there's a flow in that area. There's a lot of good positive stuff, but we are overlooking little guys when they're young because we are trying to see a fish climb a tree. So we're trying to see the little guy who is maybe clever at connecting to be really good at 1v1s and being. It might not happen, but he might be amazing at playing one touch and finding a through ball. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I am with that.
Thank you. I'll pass over. Thank you.
Fish climb a tree is brilliant. And you said something else, one-liner that I loved at the time and can't remember it now, but it's brilliant. I'll go back and listen to that. Listen, I think your points are valid. Obviously, I'm a fan of the mind. I'm a fan of Brazilian football. I'm a fan of clever players. I go back to, I don't know if I said on this pod, I think England played Chile at the old Wembley years and years ago, and they lost 2-0. I think it was a player called Ortega. I could be wrong, a number 10, diminutive player, and he ran the show. And then I was just like, we need 10s. We need 10s in football. And I must have been in my teens. But it was just so evident that this one player dictated the pace, the tempo, the direction, everything. And you mentioned Vitinha. Vitinha played over here, of course. He played for Wolves. Who knew about Vitinha when he was over here? Maybe those who love Portuguese football, maybe those who supported Wolves. But even when he was at Wolves, it was Neves, Moutinho that were the ones that got all the credit. Vitinha, when he went, no one batted an eyelid. One of the best players in the world now. And like you say, timing, being ready. I think that's a message for parents, being ready. Like you said, I didn't know the backstory, some of that backstory about Enzo. But the talent, arguably, undoubtedly was there, was always there. But if he's not ready mentally, then it's not going to happen, right? And this is where the confident footballer comes into it. And then we're going to talk about that. I also want to ask a question here, controversial one, before we talk about the confident footballer. And I'm going to ask this question because, as I touched on at the start of the pod, the warmness I got from you, the patience I got from you in terms of my son and his football and his journey, and then what you touched on about your drive for Enzo to make it as a pro, or not a pro, but get into the system. If Enzo turned around to you at any point and said, "Dad, I don't want to play football anymore," how would that conversation have gone, honestly?
I would have been sad, but I would have understood. I think what at the time, and I see a lot of the parents I work with in the mentorships, it's like you see your child can do more and he can give more, and you can see something is holding them back, and you want to help them, and then sometimes you end up doing the wrong things to help them. But he always liked football, because when Enzo was 6 months old, he was sitting down at the futsal venue with a lot of the boys behind him in a photo. I've got these photos, you know what I mean? So he grew up there. He was always kicking a ball. But if he said that, the reason would have been because of me, which I can touch base on what I was like as a parent.
Please. Yeah.
And if he did say that, I would be very sad, because I would be like, you've got talent and you're not, tapping into that talent. But I would accept it. And if you said, I don't want to play, you don't want to play, that's fine. No problems.
So what were you like as a parent? As a coach parent? How did you navigate, and how did you find that in retrospect and at the time?
I was an idiot. I don't know if I can say I was a really...
Be honest.
Yeah. I was... I don't want to swear, but I was not very... So, again, the context. When I started coaching the futsal clubs and stuff, I was just a coach. My eldest son, Enrico, never really wanted to play seriously. So he was just there in the sessions, and he never really wanted to take serious. So I never, bothered.
Is he older or younger? Sorry.
The older, he's 15 now, under 16.
Okay, right.
So he plays in a grassroots team for fun with his mates. But I've asked, do you want my help to be, do you want me to play 1-to-1? No, Dad, I just want to play because I just like. He never wanted to play football seriously, and he never showed any signs of like he can do that for eventually a job. So
Yeah.
I never bothered. So I was always a coach that was neutral, which I think is something that lacks in grassroots, unfortunately, because everybody's a parent of a child and then you are also a coach. So then there's that mixed role. I wasn't. At Ole, I was just the coach, and I think I was just the coach until Enzo came along. Okay. Mm-hmm. So as a coach, I will tell you everything that's in the book. Be patient, let them play, they're just kids, and all the things that coaches will tell you to do. But that's very easy as soon as your blood starts playing football, and when he's 5, somebody gives you a card that says Arsenal Football Club or Tottenham Football Club or Chelsea, so then your perspective changes.
Yeah.
And it changed for me. So even though I had a theory, I didn't have the emotional control to deal with things well. Okay. And it started with, we'll train more, that's fine. But then it started with raising expectations. Now you're going to the center, and Enzo was one of the first, so he was playing on the 6s when he was on the 5s. You've got to be the best there. That's one little thing that I used to say, that which I regret terribly. You've got to put work in, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And you've got to. It comes to a point to the child that gets, and then when expectations are not met, why are so-and-so going to elite centers or the main groups at Hayland and he's not going? Why is that happening if he's doing well? So I got that expectation that I had and I put it into him, and that became pressure. And that pressure has delayed him at least a year or 2 in signing. I think Enzo could have signed earlier in the 9s, like everybody else, but then it took him 2 more years to get there, or a year and a half. So I wasn't needed. I'm just trying to think of specifics, but I became quite worked out in the environment, and the pre-academy environment can be quite toxic. So I think
No, I was just going to come into that. I was going to ask the question, Diego, do you think it was, so for a lot of parents, it's vicarious living, right? Living their dream through their child. I assume maybe some of that was yours, and some of that was reputation. You own Finta. You're a coach. My son should be in these conversations. He's got the talent. He should be there. It reflects badly on me. Was that some of it, do you think?
I think, well, I'll tell you, I'd never said this to anybody. When Enzo was 3.5, no, before that, he was 2.5. There's even a video I put on his Instagram recently. I remember I threw a ball to him and he overhead kick into the sofa, but he did that move and I thought, he's got some good dexterity. He's got like a, something about him. And when he was about 3.5, he started doing futsal with me, and I realized that he was good at manipulating the ball, even though he hasn't done any kind of training. I said to myself, I want to prove to myself Enzo can get into a cut 1 at foundation phase. So I had that goal in my mind. I don't care if Enzo becomes a pro, but I had that goal that I wanted to achieve, which is to get him signed at cut 1. Because I've been in, I knew what he was like, and I knew what they were looking for. I thought, I can help him. So then, yes, everything else you said, I'm the coach. If he's failing, that means I'm failing. Maybe I'm not a good coach. I think he all played a part into my ego. And I'm very okay to talk about it today, because I've come out the other way. And I think that ego has hurt me, has hurt him. I changed me. One of the reasons I sold Finta, one of the reasons was because I got tired, because I think it mixed up the roles of I'm his dad, but I've got this massive reputation and, lots of kids I want to cater for. I want to help these kids, but then my emotions are getting involved because he's in this stage and I want to go watch him at the pre-academy, but I can't because I'm here. So it was a bit of a mix at the time, So 100% my ego took charge, and I thought I had to succeed because of my knowledge, and I said to myself I was going to get him signed at a cut 1. So big ego.
Wow. And first of all, thank you for being totally honest. Thank you for sharing that information, being vulnerable and giving us an exclusive. And for me, it's remarkable, given who I know you to be as a coach, right? But it's different when it's your child. And it is different. I've been I've been called out on it, and I think I've mentioned it on the pod before. Dave Bricknell said to me, "You've disciplined your son, and you're not putting him back in the game. But if that was another boy, would you put him back in the game?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "All right, I get it," and I'll put him back in the game. And you do. I think if you're trying, you want the best for your child, and also if you're managing a team, you often push your child harder and punish him harder as well. And it's not the easiest thing being a coach, being a dad, and being a dad coach. Sometimes you do need to separate the two, which is what you did. I know OC's got a couple of questions on the pre-academy journey before we move on to the confident footballer. So bear with us. I'm going to hand over to OC.
Sure.
Yeah, to be fair, in truth, you've covered them. I think you've covered them. All I would say is that what you mentioned about when you saw Enzo sort of curl up and start crying when you said that he could go across to the everything session. What impact do you think the pre-academy circuit has on children? So we understand what impact it had on Enzo, but what impact can it have on children, especially on the 8th season? That's why I came onto the pod in the first instance, because that under 8 season is, my brother told me, like, when you get to the under 8 season, be prepared. But I feel like unless people are speaking about it, it's quite difficult to prepare for it because it is intense. So, yeah, what impact do you feel like that signing season has on parents? And it's going to link into the confident footballer piece, but what is some advice that you can give to parents that are like in it right now? We've just come into the start of the year. They're now travelling up and down the country, going to now start playing other academies. What nuggets can you give them?
Right. So first of all, I don't like how the pre-academy system is, where you are 2 years but you don't belong anywhere. Because I think, if you see the pyramid of Maslow, which is what humans need to feel good about themselves in life, one of the first things is belonging. So when you don't belong anywhere, then it's very tough, and then the kids are in and out all the time, and they might be doing 2 or 3, so they don't really create, they do, but they don't create as much bond as they could. Like if they were in one club for the whole, let's say you sign it under 7s and you've got that child for the whole year, do you know what I mean? And that child is with the group. I know what I'm saying is changing completely the system, but I just think the way the system is worked out is not healthy for kids and parents. It's not healthy for the kid. And then there's the fault. My fault as a parent was I took that pressure and I got that pressure and I got into him, because you've got to get in. You've got to go. You've got to do that. You've got to do this. So it's very, very tough for a child to understand when he's 6 and 7 that he's with these guys today, but next week he's not. And then he might not be good enough. Well, people are telling him he's not good enough at that stage in time. And then suddenly he's in a different group. And that constant change attack exactly their identity, attack their, like, who am I? Am I good? Am I not good? I was good because I got scouted, but I'm not good because I'm not in that group. But then Johnny is in the main group. And then so I don't like how we set up. I think it's very cruel on kids. Okay. What I would do, but people call me crazy, is academies wouldn't start until after puberty, and the professional clubs invest all that money, and what they would do is they would make grassroots really good, and there will be coaches in grassroots instead of parents. And this is what I would do, because you can't really tell that much of a player until he's gone through puberty or he's going through. So this is what I would do, because then the kid is also able to take a bit more. Secondary school, they're a little bit more mature. When you're 6, all you hear is, I'm not good enough. So when your dad is telling you to work harder, or you got to try harder, whatever it is, what you're hearing is, I'm not good enough, my dad doesn't like me. And that's very powerful. That can be ingrained in your mindset, that your confidence, you don't believe in yourself anymore. So this is what happened to my son, and this is what happens to a lot of other kids in the pre-academies. Another thing that happens with lots of parents is, at first, at 5 and 6, a very large amount of players get picked. Very large. And that funnel gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, so you get 100, 200 kids that come into the development centers of Arsenal, every year for under sixes. Okay, and then from that 200 kids, a lot of them will just come and go, and a lot of them will go into, or a few of them will go into the main groups and so on. But some parents hold into that hope of, if my son got scouted once, that means he's got to be at that level. And then they get the obsession of the level they think their child is at and the level they think their child should do. And you've got to perform. And it's, for me now, you've got to do this, you've got to get there. So I don't like the way the system is set up. I don't think it's healthy for children. But then we parents are also at fault because we take that for our egos, because the clubs are cool to be at, and we make it worse. So that's my point. Advice for parents. And now it's easy to say because I've gone through the whole thing. Do not rush, do not worry. So I mentor a couple of pre-academy kids at the moment, and they're doing really, really well. But when I first started talking to them, they didn't even want to step into the academy. They didn't want to go into the pre-academies, okay? So there is one particular kid I'm working with, and he's in like 3 top clubs in London. He didn't want to go. Dad didn't want to go pre-academies anymore. I don't want to go. So we had to do a work to reframe what that means to him. Okay, but that is a lot because the experiences they had, but also the experience is magnified by the parent. Because if in a car, let's say you had a setback at Tottenham, but you get in the car and mom and dad are really cool about it, and really you don't feel it as much. The problem is when we parents, we take that setback or a bad session, whatever, we hammer the kid, and now the perception of the fact is, I'm horrible. I'm a really bad footballer. I shouldn't play anymore. Okay, so my advice is be patient. Really, really be patient. Develop your child individually as much as you can in those first years of life. Physically, can they run? Can they sprint? Because that's a requirement to play football. If not, are you providing opportunities for your child to do lots of sprints in a week? Can they jump? Are they explosive when they're jumping? Can you help them with that? Can they manipulate the ball? Can they strike the ball? Get all those basics done. And if your child is good enough, this country is very, very good at finding players. They will get a chance at some point. It might be a 9, 10, 11, 12, but if they are at that level, the top players in the age group, they will get a chance at some point. So patience. And then one thing I always tell the parents I work with, what would you have liked to have achieved in 5 years' time? If you look 5 years' time from now, and you look at your child, where would you like them to be? Oh, I want them to be really good at using the left foot. Okay, so right now is a time that you're going to work on that left foot. For in 5 years' time, they are both footed, and you're going to work on your sprint. So then in 5 years' time, they're fast. Okay, because the pre-academy as well is the race to sign. The race to sign. I need to sign next month. I need to sign next year. And that all causes that bit of which can be good because the kids are developing technically more because they don't want to miss out. The fear of missing out helps, but at the same time, it can cause so much pressure and damage that later on it'll be very difficult to help them.
Brilliant. Well, Diego, sorry, you touched on mentoring 2 kids now. This is part of the Confident Footballer, right? So if you could summarize what the Confident Footballer is, what your product is, what would you say?
So the Confident Footballer is a system. So I created a system to help myself with Enzo. And including in that system there is a parents like 4 corners, because we talk about 4 corners for kids.
Yeah.
And what's our 4 corners? So I'll give an example. Emotional control. I need to have emotional control to deal with situations when they arise. Otherwise, I'll lose the plot. Technical knowledge. If I have the technical knowledge, that's fantastic, because as I said before, we are project managers, so we've got to make sure that we give them what they need. If I don't have the technical knowledge, that's okay. But then you've got to find people that can help you with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 examples of what the Confident Footballer means. So it's a system to help parents and players to get more the players to get more confident, but I help parents as well, because without the parents' help, it's impossible. So the way it works, there is an online version of it, online system, online course where it's self-paced. People watch it, and everything is there step by step for the parents and for the players. There is an app as well, so that the players that are part of the Confident Footballer, they have an app where they can measure their performances, and they keep track, and they've got stats and so on. But those stats are based on the behaviors we're trying to introduce. Okay, so just go very quickly through this, but there's 4 behaviors that I work on. Brave off the ball. What does that mean? Can you get on the ball as much as you can? And what do you need to do to be able to do that? Brave on the ball. What do you do when we have the ball? How brave can you be? Aggressive and electric. Okay, so what we measure the kids is what they can control, what their behaviors are, because if they can do what they can control, they're going to enjoy more, and it's going to increase performance. Okay, so that is the system with the online self-paced course. But what I also do is individual mentorships. So my mentorships is, they also get access to this, but it's a 12-week individual mentorships where I have weekly sessions with the child, where I help them apply those things and discuss their journey. And a lot of it, again, is educating the parents. 9 out of 10 kids I work with, I need to educate the parents. Otherwise, I can say whatever I want to the child, but when they get in the car in the next game, the parent will say the opposite of what I just said, and then it breaks. So it's a system to help players get confident, knowledge and information for parents and players, and support for the parents as well in the process. Example, my son just went to pre-academy. I get a message and say, oh, he was shocking today, he didn't want to go in, or whatever it is. I support them with via WhatsApp and say, look, do this, this and that, try and say this, next week I'm going to work on that. So it's like a revamp process of 12 weeks, my individual mentorship. So whatever, it's basically what I needed to have done with myself before, when Enzo was 8 or 9, okay? Or any point of his life, if he was lacking confidence, I help other people do that now.
Creation from necessity. There's a better phrase for that, but yeah, exactly that, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
Diego, let me just ask you a question. So we've heard the backstory coming from Brazil, growing up in a footballing family, on the streets, playing futsal, coaching in the pre-academy, and I suppose just having that passion for being on the grass and seeing these kids develop. What did you see? Was it something really impactful with your child that made you want to transition from the grass into the classroom almost? And do you think it's more important than the grass?
That's a very good question. Very good. So when I sold Think and I came to the North, I had a bit of time to think and reflect. And in that time, I was trying to search, what is it that I do? And I think football is just a platform. I think what I do is I help young people to better themselves. So I help young footballers to try and achieve their dream, to become better footballers and people. So when I realized that, and look, a couple of years ago, I also got baptized as in a Christian. So I want to live the way that Jesus was here. I'm sorry to go into religion, but I just think it's important to tell you why I'm doing things. So
Diego, there's no FA bans here, mate. There's no bans here.
Yeah, that just I respect everybody else's culture.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, but I just want to give you an insight of why. So I realized that my purpose in life, and Nathan is a very good guy that helped me find that as well. My purpose in life is helping young people. And at futsal, I used to help them on the court playing futsal via games, tournaments, coaching, and everything else. And I think the way I'm doing things now, which was a calling through seeing my son suffer and myself as well, because our relationship at points were not, it wasn't the best. I think individually I have a higher impact, so it's less people. I don't work with a lot of people at the same time, but it's higher impact because it's right individual. And my biggest flex is when parents say, look, I'm enjoying the car journey so much more. I'm enjoying the football journey with my child. My child is enjoying getting the game. Or today I got a message from a kid that works in Dubai say he had the best game he had all season and he's buzzing for it. And he's going to tell you all about it on Tuesday. So that's where the shift happened. And I thought, I help players. And yes, I like to be on the pitch and stuff, but I think I can have more of an impact right now with the way I'm doing things individually. And I get to know the child more. There's more time. There's more... that relationship is built. So that's where it happened. Also, I can't be silly to say this, but with Enzo playing football, my commitment is 4 times a week. It's a lot. So the way I used to, in terms business-wise, the ways I used to coach before, it was every night. Do you know what I mean? So with this, I've got more flexibility. As I said, I've got children in the USA, Dubai, UK, from under 7s, I've got kids that got their first pro as well. So it's a variety of players that I work with all over the country, but it gives me the flexibility. I work from home. I'm on my computer, turn it on.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. Listen, I'm quite sparing with the questions today. I just wanted to ask that question because it just jumped out to me. But Deji, I'll hand over to yourself.
Yeah, no, Diego, awesome. Awesome to just listen to you and hear about your journey, the impact. When you were talking about earlier that you were saying that you were an idiot, and I kind of smiled, because if you were an idiot there, then that would make me an idiot. And unfortunately, that would make a lot of people around us idiots, because what you were describing is what unfortunately has become the norm. I see this all the time. And dare I say, I did it. And when you said, my son played a friendly yesterday against a really top team in Kent, and they won. But I did say to him, if you want to go to the next level, you need to be the best. And so listening to you just now, it kind of crushed me slightly, because that is my language. My language is, I believe in the talent. And I guess for me, hearing about what you're doing and helping parents to reframe and to think about their language is needed, because I can tell you now, I need that. I'm constantly on his back, but I thought I was trying to help. But unfortunately, I think the key thing is helping parents to find that balance. What is helping and what is not helpful? Yeah. So I guess leaning into that, you've talked about, you've got this 12-week mentoring program. It's online. And I guess you've kind of answered one thing, because I said, is there any chance for you to kind of see these people face to face? Is there any scope for that? But also, how far does it go? How far does it extend? Is it just, boys, girls, I know the kind of 9 to 12, because that's probably the similar age range to your son. But does that extend into older ages, 16, under 21s, under 23s? Yeah. How far can it go? How far does it go?
Cool. Starting with the process. The reason I have that 12-week process is because that is the core foundation. So it's education. They watch the videos, and then they'll get the knowledge of the why. So I give a lot of science-backed facts in there as well, both for the kids in a child-friendly manner, but for the parents. I'm not saying this because it's on top of my head. It's the research I did because I wanted my son to be better, and it works. So that 12 weeks gets the foundation, and they already normally see changes in the 3 or 4 weeks, but that 12 weeks gives us a good, because life happens as well. Depending when you start, if you start, in a few weeks' time, then you have Easter and there's a break, and then people go away, and then people get injured, and so that 12 weeks gives enough time to lay the foundations. Okay. After that, I do have a few people that stay with me regularly monthly. So I have people that with me. The longest one I've got is an under 10, and he's been with me for a year and a half. So there are people that stay with me monthly because the kids get comfortable with me. It's just like they do a one-to-one session, but they have that session with me. So they discuss how the games went. They discuss how they felt, what happened, and then I can always monitor as well and help the parents. At this stage, normally when with me longer, the parents know the system, and they have they measure themselves in a form I've got as well. So then I know when a child had a good game or not a good game. So I can always text them and say, look, Johnny, I noticed this happened today. Do you need support? So yeah, so that after the 12 weeks, it can extend, and many people do. Regarding the ages, the eldest boys I have a boy who's is playing under 19s UEFA Youth League, professional contract. I've got another one who's just got scholarship and first pro at a big Cat 1 club as well. I had another one that I did in a Cat 3 London club. He's got a scholarship and sometimes trains with the older lads, but he doesn't go much older than that. To be honest, I do not have a much aspiration to work with pros. That's not my thing. I like working with kids. I think this is where I've been, successful, and this is where I know as a parent. So I love working with the older guys, but I think that's the oldest I'll go at the moment. Okay, and it goes down from there. So as I said, I have a couple pre-academy kids. I don't do too many pre-academy kids because the parents sometimes need to go through the suffering a little bit. Otherwise, what I say goes through here and out there, because they're hearing this from everybody, different things. So sometimes they need to go through that. So I do an interview process before working with me, and it goes through a form where I read the answers, and then after, if I feel I can help that child, then we have a Zoom meeting, and in that conversation, I will see where they are, and then see if it's a good fit for both of us, not just for me, but for them as well. Okay, and that's, I don't do too many pre-academy kids because sometimes the parents not ready for the information I'm going to give them, and I don't want to take their money if they're not ready. Okay, and the age group I've got the most at the moment, I would say, is under 12s. I've got some very talented boys in the UK, so top of Cat 1 clubs that I know they're going to go far because clubs rate them. I've got one girl that I work with, good player as well. And yeah, so it's very varied, do you know what I mean? It's but as I said, it's an education process. So for the player to get the knowledge, but then apply in their lives, but also for the parents to be able to support them, because without them, it's tough.
No, thank you. Really appreciate that. And then I guess, look, I'll leave it. I'll open it up to Andrew and OC, because my last question is a left field question, but I want to answer it before we go. But thank you, Diego.
No, thanks.
So it's very true that I can see that you don't want to work with the adults, the pros. I guess you've got enough pros as your friends. Those shirts on the back wall there, they didn't just happen. These guys you know personally, right? So there's no aspirations, no need to get near the pros. You're already there. I guess you get the most value out of working with the kids at the start of their journey, trying to get their mentality right. And I love what you're doing. I love another person we've had on this show as well, Phil, PJ Roberts. He does the inner game. You're the confident footballer. And I think I urge parents, and I'm going to do this myself with my son. I think it's healthy to get a different perspective. I think it's healthy to get somebody who's, like you said, you've got a 2,000 page, is it 2,000? 200?
200 not, yeah.
Page Canva document where you've documented everything you've gone through, and obviously you've got the football knowledge as well to boot. So
that's before AI, by the way.
Very true.
That's before AI.
You are AI.
All right, no.
You are the AI. No, brilliant. I think that's what you did was very healthy from a human perspective, from an adult perspective, from a parent perspective. To take yourself away, to learn, to understand, to document, aka journal, and then come back and give your son what he needed so he can succeed and get into one of the most prestigious academies in world football. Let's have it right. And that's what you've done. So I think credit to yourself, and credit to yourself for being part of the ecosystem. Question I have, we often talk about London, North versus South. I'm not going to ask you about that. That's Deji's one. I'm not sure if you've got enough experience on the South side. We've asked about North of England versus South of England. But what does the actual ecosystem look like in Manchester compared to London? Is it exactly the same with different accents, or is there less or more of a particular thing?
I've tried to find any differences or any, but I think it's pretty much similar, because if you think about London and the clubs that we know, like Ryan FC, been there for years, people know that if you are Ryan FC, for example, if you are at Hannekin's Farm, if you are at Finesse, if you are at those clubs and your child is in a good level competitive, they'll be seen, because scouts are going to come watch their colleague and things like this. Okay, so in the North is the same. There are clubs that are very reputable and big, and they've got a lot of teams, and the coaches work for academies. So if you are in that kind of environment, if you're in the top divisions of the Manchester Youth League, then it'll be very much similar, I think, in terms of the setup, one-to-one coaches, small group sessions, and all of that. You know what? I found some really top coaches up north. Some really, really top coaches, like good level. So Eden from Bowmasters is unbelievable. You should go. Actually, he works for United. You should get him. He is technically like top. So I don't know. I don't see much of the difference. Of course, there's the amount of people, because there's a lot more. But apart from that, I don't. Well, I do think the environment, as I said earlier, the environment here is a lot more chilled. a lot more chilled. If you come to a half-term camp and you see it's not as tense and people are chilled, and some people are not even watching the sessions. I don't know if it's the type of life here is a bit quieter, there's more time, but that's one of the differences I noticed in terms of environment. Apart from that, very, very much similar, to be honest.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good to hear. Good to understand. I will touch base with you because I think we need to get some teams from up north, Manchester and Liverpool, on the show. I think we want to talk to the equivalents of the Ryans, the Finesses and the Hannekins in Manchester, in Liverpool. We have asked a few. It hasn't worked out just yet. But it'd be good to get those guys on to explain. Like, they've got histories too. They are massive contributors to English football and UK football, right? Manchester clubs are actually at the top right now. Maybe a North London club is trying to break that at the moment, but Manchester clubs and Liverpool clubs, well, one Liverpool club rule. So that would be good to get you and to get them on. So another question I have for you is one we do each show. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's OC. You mentioned the 4-corner model or the 4 footballing pillars. What percentage, if any, would you put on each of those for, I would say, a foundation phase player? What do they need?
I'll give you opinion, but then there's also facts. So kids are developing, they're humans and they're growing. So I think the physical corner is very, very important. And I think we neglect in this country. I don't think doing only ball work will develop their physical corner. I actually think that you need more. You need sprints, you need jumps, you need coordination stuff. You need other things. I remember SNC coach at Spurs said to me, kids need as many sprints as possible, as often as possible. They need to be running, right? So they need to be doing things. So I think the physical corner gets neglected. The technical corner, everybody knows that is so important, because if you get confident technically, then you're going to perform more. That increases your motivation, all the other things. But I think the one thing is the psychological corner. And the psychological corner, my biggest fear as a dad of if I want my son to go all the way is his motivation. Because if he doesn't want to play a lot, no matter what club he is right now, later on, if he needs to go to a lower club, if he gets released, if he gets a girlfriend, if anything happens, if his motivation is not very high, that he loves the object, which is football, he loves the ball, he loves the game, then that will be a problem. And we can start nurturing that from as early as they can start kicking the ball, because especially up to 7 years old, kids are forming their core beliefs. And so it's a very, very important time to get the right things in place, to get the right information in place. What is success? What's not success? Because that they're going to take for life, not just for football. How I react to losing a match is very similar how I might react if I lose a job, or if a girlfriend breaks up with me. So I think that is so important. They're all equally important, but I think the psychological is the one that holds everything together.
Brilliant. Can I get percentages for those? Because we like to put a little document diagram together and post it. So put your face beside it and say, this is what Diego said, so it's fact.
How old are we talking?
Well, let's say between 9 and 12.
40% psychological, 30 technical, and 30 physical. That's it. But psychological, you could have the social corner there as well, because social is also part of that. I was
going to say, yeah.
So, I would say that.
So I'm going to say 30, 10, 30, 30 for the social.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
I don't know though. No, wait, because social, as I said, if you don't enjoy what you do, you don't enjoy the environment you are, then social is a big part of it, But let's stick to that. Let's stick to that.
It's tricky because I think, like you touched on, each of the corners or the pillars are very important, right, in their own ways and at different times. So this is a bit unfair when we ask this question, but it helps us producing a document and a view of Diego and the way you think, right? So that's why I like to do it. Before I hand over to Dej to answer his left field question and close the show, Can you tell us where we can find you and our listeners can find you and the Confident Footballer?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram. That's the social media I use the most. And it's Diego Pagliuso, my name. And in there, there's a link for the Confident Footballer to see what it's about. And people can always message me if they got any questions. And I'm always happy to chat to other parents out there and support people where I can. But I've got a question for you, though. On the technical thing, what is technical to you guys? What is technical from 9 to 12? That's a
good question. So for me, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here going first. So technical for me is a bit of ball mastery. Passing I'm big on passing, even at 9 to 12, passing and moving, and football IQ. So I would put that in the technical because I think that impacts your passing and why you do what you do, right? For me, that's important. It's great you did a step over, but what was it you were trying to achieve? Was it just to beat the man? Was it to open up a pocket of space because you saw a passing channel and you can now see the pass, do the pass, but the pass with the right weight, with the right direction, and right timing. So that's, for me, technical.
Oh, so you go next or should I go next?
Let me go. Well, a question. For me, it encompasses a lot, but I would go with ball receiving. How does one receive the ball? So I think the two biggest distinguishing factors for how high you'll play, one is fitness and two is your first touch. I feel like the players with the better touch play at a higher level of football. So, yeah, ball receiving. How do you take that ball? And
good shout.
I think that's probably my highest technical factor.
Element, yeah.
I'm kind of glad that you went before me because I would have said all of the above, and then I would actually add that I don't think you should be in an academy if you don't have that.
Plus ball striking, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think ball striking. I think the other stuff, ball receiving, mastery, decision making, and that obviously impacts on the passing. But I think if you can't do them things, then you shouldn't be at an academy for me, because that is technical and that has to be the foundation. And if you don't have that foundation, then you need to be in grassroots until you have that.
But ball striking, just on that, ball striking doesn't necessarily just mean shooting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I talk about ball striking, it's about the right type of technique to use for the right type of shot or pass, right? Not just hitting the ball as hard as you want or can, just because the weight of pass is equal to the receipt of pass for me, right? You need to pass the ball how and when you would like to receive that ball, right? That makes it easier for your teammate. That's why I say ball striking. Sorry.
Yeah.
Diego, what do you think?
Well, I have this debate with myself all the time, and I'm a bit crazy. This idea I've got, I don't want my son to be too technical. That is rehearsed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the throwing arms and rehearsing too much because I think I've never seen. I heard this before on the internet. I've never seen a garage player become a pro before. Like the American soccer players, they can do everything with the ball, but they can't play football. So I think technique is being able to use the right skill in the game. So as I said, it could be first touch, it could be the weight of your pass. So for me, defending is a technique. How you use your arm, how you put your body across, how you different types of passes for different situations. So that for me is technique. And again, I don't want my own son to be too rehearsed because I've never seen years of coaching the players that could do everything. I've never seen them go further and get pros. But I did see the kids that had one good thing they're really good at, and then they were decent at the others, and they could play football. Because football is a game that you're trying to score in the other end, and you're trying to win the game. So playing football doesn't require a lot of the things that are taught out there. So for me, technique is something that helps you to use it in the game so you can win the game. That's what 100%. Technique is.
Yeah, brilliant. So I agree. Sorry, Dej. I was just going to say to add to that, So when I talk and when I train skills myself, I say the skills are there for two things, right? One, to create a bit of space for you to then use the ball. However you choose to use the ball depends on the game state. The other reason you use skill is to get yourself out of trouble, right? So understanding what skills to use when is important, but most important is having a technique that when you're in game state and the flow of the game, your technique gets you out of trouble and allows you to be creative with the creative mind, and your technique will back you up, right? And that's why I always go back to Ronaldinho, because he tells the story of him training by himself, but with his dog. And his dog, being a little dog, was always after the ball as dogs do. And he was able to create that drag back, the push, keeping the ball close to him. There's a robot that does it now with sensors that you can buy in Smith's and other toy stores, but it's creating the exact same environment as his pet dog did. It's keeping the ball close. And if anyone's seen a dog chase after the ball, you know that you have to be creative to keep that ball away from that dog for a period of time. The dog will get it eventually, but for a period of time. And that's the foundation of one of the foundations of his technique. So I agree. I think there's a lot, but it's about the use of it. Sorry, Dej, or OC, I'm not sure who was going to speak there.
No, I was going to say something, but I've now forgotten.
Damn, sorry, mate.
No, it's all good. It was all good.
Yeah, you know what? It's the game of football. Like, you answered the question, Diego, and I think we've all said something slightly different, haven't we? So
yeah.
No, I remember now. Sorry, go on, OC. I remember, but after you.
No. You go.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that there was something about what Nathan had shared with me about my son, and it said something about not wanting to do too many one-to-ones to take away the natural instinct. And I feel like some of the great coaches, I'm not saying anyone that does one-to-ones is not a great coach, but there is something about allowing the Joga Bonita to naturally come out of the child. And that's what I'm about. And so, you know, not wanting my son to be robotic and definitely just to feel the game. I feel like that kind of purity. And I'm going to just put it out there. When you're looking for a coach, that's what you want anyway. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. I've got a left field question. It's not that left field, but I just want to get your opinion, Diego. I've got a keen interest in the Brazilian league. And I was telling some people the other day, I think I might be a Palmeiras fan.
God.
I think so. I really like Palmeiras.
Sorry, didn't you grow up in Brazil?
Yeah,
I mean, your local club.
A lot of people from Brazil stop me and they speak to me because they reckon they recognize me in Rio a couple of years back. Would you say the Brazilian league is catching up with the Prem? I watched the Club World Cup. I saw some of the games. And is there an argument that the Brazilian league is catching up? And maybe from what you're seeing in terms of players coming in, money coming into the country, but also some of the changes, the facilities, could it catch the Prem? Could it overtake the Prem?
So in the early 90s, the Brazilian league was very strong. So I remember São Paulo in 92, 93, they beat Barcelona in the World Club finals, and up to mid 2000s Brazilian teams could compete with any club in Europe because a lot of our talent stayed home. But modern football, there's too much money out here. So like if a player is 18 and he's decent, like Estevão, he will come up. Like, so we cannot compare the level of the leagues in terms of the Premier League has too much money, so they can buy anyone they want, so that the level is going to be higher. Now, I think the Brazilian league is a lot more entertaining because we have 12 big clubs, and every year, last few years, Palmeiras and Flamengo, they've got too much money again, so that's changed. But normally, you've got clubs that any of those 12 could be fighting for one of the top spots, and any of those 12 could be fighting for relegation as well, because Brazil is massive. So I'm a Santos FC fan, and a couple of years ago we got relegated for the first time in our history. Wow. You know, we had a bad season and got relegated. So then we went up and now Neymar is there. So Brazilian league is so entertaining because anyone can be anyone at any point. in terms of entertainment, it's probably better than the Premier League, because even though you say the Premier League is very competitive, it's not really. Like, it's always City, there's always a big six, and then there's 3 or 4 of them that always stays up there. And then normally the league is won. There's 2 clubs fighting. In Brazil, there's 3 points between the 9th and the 3rd. Like, it's crazy. In terms of level, you can't compare. In terms of the players, they tell me when they go, like Lucas is in Brazil now, the grass is not, some of the pitches are not, like the Premier League, perfect. Brazil is very big, so you might be traveling on a plane for 4 hours from a very hot place in Bahia, and then suddenly you're in south of Brazil and it's different weather. So there's a lot of things that make the Brazilian league difficult to play. And then the level of the game, there's too many games in the season as well, because we've got state championships and the league. So then you can't compare in terms of level with the Premier League, even with the championship, to be honest, in terms of actual pure play level. Yes, the top clubs in Brazil, because they've got money, they keep some of the talent, they will compete like they did in the World Cup. Yeah. But we've got a long way to go. A long way to go. We need to keep our talent for longer. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Argentina just changed something that you won't play for your youth teams if you leave Argentina before you get a call-up or something. So they want to keep their talents a bit longer, and I think it's something to think about, because our talent is coming at 18 and they're becoming European, and then we wonder why Brazil is losing our taste. Do you know what I mean? Losing our touch.
Yeah, and I also think that's when they come European, they become European players. I think that's what you meant as well. Like, they become almost robotic system players. Like Esteval should have stayed. He should have stayed. Even I think Neymar came very young to the Premier League, not to the Premier League. He didn't come to the Premier League, but he went to Europe very young. I see it so often. I think Brazil is such a rich hub that everyone is searching. If you're searching for a star and they're searching for a talent and someone to put bums on seats, Brazil is the place to go. And I think sometimes when they come that young, it's a very different country, a very different environment, right? I went to Brazil, and I keep on saying this, but when I went to Brazil, as much as you speak Portuguese, you speak Brazilian Portuguese, but you don't speak any English, or very little English. And trying to navigate it felt like I was in a completely different place. And you take a Brazilian out of Brazil and put them into, I don't know, Russia. So I know that was a pathway for a long time. What must that be like? So a lot of talent must get lost. Right? So I think that's brilliant from Argentina. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think so too, because we are, like, Brazil is now importing players from the others. So Brazil is the richest country in South America, so we are now importing players from the other countries. But then that means our youth players are not getting minutes. So you're either very good that you come straight to Europe, or we're getting a guy from Uruguay to play for the first team. Therefore, we are not giving our players enough, game time, our young players. And I saw an interview this week from a Brazilian player called Gabigol. I don't know if you know who he is. No. And he said, if you're going to go to Europe to play for the 10th place, mate, stay at Santos, stay at Flamengo. If you're going to earn the same amount of money, be a legend here in your country rather than just going to be like a mid-table team in Spain. If the money is the same, why are players going? And you know what? I kind of agree with him. Of course, the young players have the dream of playing in Europe because Champions League, and if you get, Bo, but it's a bit of a dream for supporters for the league to be stronger.
Yeah. Thank you.
But the South American Champions League Copa de Libertadores is pretty special, though, no?
It is, but it's not the Champions League. Like, everyone is watching the Champions League. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Brazilian players, you don't even hear about them very much, but then they come to the Premier League. They play 3 or 4 games. They play for Brazil.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? But maybe if you were playing for Vasco da Gama, and you have a really good season, it's a lot harder for you to get to that level because
recognition. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah. So if you're a young player, you think about these things as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Sorry, Dej.
No, that was it. No, Diego, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to get that insight, just in case I decide to leave here for some reason and head home to Brazil. Then I just wanted to know what the terrain is.
Right, you've got to support. Like Palmeiras is not the club to support. Palmeiras have two eras, and both eras were manufactured by money. One of them, they had Italian money from Parmalat, the milk company, if you remember that, and the recent one is a company called Crefisa. So they build, you gotta go for the roots. Santos build players with the academy kids, the Neymars, Pelés, Rodrigos, and we just put them to play. And just to give you context, Santos supporters, you might be winning 1-0, but if your team is not attacking, we'll be like, oh, what are you doing? We just want happiness. And if you want to think of Brazil football, it's Santos FC, man. It's not Palmeiras.
Okay, cool. So
one of us showed our Brazilian roots, one of us didn't. Just saying, the Gino.
Yeah. Wicked. Thank you. Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah. Very good. That's it. So look, I guess that's it. Diego, thank you.
No, there isn't. That isn't it, Dej. That isn't it. We've got to ask our closing question.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, cool. Diego. We are going to let you go at some point. We've been going for nearly 2 hours. But our final question is, and you've got to help us with this question, is if you could get one person on this pod, who would it be? And before you answer, you have to help us get them on.
Okay.
Ooh. You know what? The person I mentioned before, Eden from Bowmasters, he's probably the best technical coach I've seen in England, if not top 3. And he's crazy. He's got a personality. He's so cool with the kid, childish. Like he's such a cool guy too. I think you love talking to him, and I'll talk to you about it.
Perfect. So you heard it here first. We're going to get Eden, Ball Mastery King, Manchester United Academy on this show very soon in 2026, thanks to Diego. Diego, listen, it's been 2 hours. It's been one of our longest pods ever.
Wow. I talk a lot, don't I?
No, it's a great conversation. I think you've shared some great insight, especially about parenting and your vulnerability there. I think a lot of parents will find that so useful. I found it useful. Deji and OC, I'm sure I found it useful. Yeah. So we've all been that idiot, by the way. We have all been that idiot. Yeah. So let's not be fooled and let's be honest with ourselves. We've all, and that's everybody that's listening as well, you've all been that idiot.
Yeah.
So
the earlier you recognize, the more time you've got to change.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Perfect. So just remind me where we can find the Confident Footballer again.
So Instagram, my name, Diego Pagliuso, and there is a link there for people to understand what the Confident Footballer is.
Perfect.
All right.
He's been Diego, the Confident Footballer. We've been Ball at All Costs. Like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, notification, and we are out.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.